Nau mai, hoki mai, and welcome to another episode of our Mind to Mauri podcast with Tahi Spinks of Tau Mauri Me Tahi. Thanks to our awesome sponsors BC More and Number One Electrical for bringing you this episode. Kia ora tātou te whānau, and welcome back to another episode of the Mind to Mauri podcast called Tahi Taku Ingoa, and today I'm joined by my good friend Tegan Phillips, and I'll introduce you to her in a moment, but first, as always, I just want you to slow down, take a nice deep breath, and notice all those thoughts that are racing through your mind. Thoughts of the past that cannot be changed in this moment, and thoughts of the future that may not happen. And just come back to now and allow those thoughts to be quiet so that you can take in any gifts this podcast has to offer you. So, kia ora Tegan, how about you introduce yourself to us and give us a little bit of background of who you are, where you're from, and that kind of thing.
Sweet. So my name's Tegan Phillips. I'm 24, from Waihi. I'm an electrician at a gold mine. I got quite a few hobbies. I like mountain biking, snowboarding, fishing, wakeboarding. The list goes on. But that's a bit
Awesome.
about me.
And what's something funny or odd about you that people may not know that, could help the listeners get to know you a little better?
Well, I managed to buy a house at 23, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's inspirational. So an electrician, I've known you personally for quite some time now, being an electrician in the mining industry as well, and seeing you come through your apprenticeship, and then eventually finishing your apprenticeship at Number One Electrical with us. What led you into wanting to be an electrician?
So when I was at school, my brother, he was doing his electrical trade, and I was coming up to year 13, so I decided that I'd do a gateway program in electrical, and I really enjoyed it. So I ended up doing that and going through a training company and becoming an electrician.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what was that process like? Was there any thoughts standing in your way about being a female stepping into that industry?
Originally, no, but actually going through the gateway process, being in a small town, there were a lot of electrical companies around, but most wouldn't accept me. They literally said that they would not take me because I'm a female. And so that did give me some concerns, but didn't stop me.
Awesome.
And eventually, a company, Adams Electrical, took me on, and that's where I decided that I loved it and I'd continue. So, yeah.
Awesome. And then from there, you moved into the gold mine in Waihi and carried on your apprenticeship there?
Yeah. So I was there for 3 years doing my apprenticeship, and I had some struggles there too, being a female in mining and electrical, because before I got there, I obviously didn't have too much experience, really, and they had to teach me everything, and some men weren't very willing, but I persevered, and, it's definitely been worth it.
Awesome.
And, yeah, definitely.
Good on you for having the courage to stick it out. And have you seen that attitude change over time? Like if there's young girls out there now thinking about, moving into the trades, I know my company's come a long way. We've had 4 female apprentices now, as well as male apprentices. Have you found the attitude across the board shifting and more women coming into the trades?
Yeah, I definitely have. Even when I came into your company, you've had a few apprentices, and it was very like welcoming and warming. Like it wasn't a concern of me being a female in the trade, and I definitely have seen a shift. And I think that a lot of people are coming to terms with that women are capable, and you know we can be in the trade too. You know, and do a good job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've always had that philosophy that no one gets left behind. I think at one point we had about 6 nationalities working for us as well, and female and male. So it's I don't discriminate on anything. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's just I'm seeing a lot of other companies taking on that philosophy too, and it's good to hear that you're noticing it shifting from your perspective. But when you face those challenges, if there's other young apprentices out there, male or female, because the trades can be a daunting industry to go into, even for a male. There's a lot of banter, and people are going to give you shit at times. And how did you cope with that, and how did you get through that?
Well, like I personally, I knew that even though what they thought about me, I knew there was a few people that did appreciate me, and I, just spent time with those people and grew with those people, and that really pushed me through. And like I think that, if you really enjoy it, and I wouldn't give up because of one person's perhaps bad or negative attitude. Like definitely, there's good people out there, and a lot of people believe in you. Like you'll make it through.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that is a key I found coming through my apprenticeship too. Whether it's for whatever reasons, I was the only Mauri apprentice I knew at the time, so it was and didn't work with a lot of Mauri electricians, so I had that same sort of feeling, and just finding those right people that you connect with and that were open-minded helped me get through it too. So that's a really good advice for anyone listening. Just find the people that you resonate with. For me, I was lucky, like yours, with the electrical training company. And so if there was any smaller companies I was working with and there was issues, I was able to, ask to move and find a company that fitted me. And that's why we've always used them or ATT to take on our apprentices, to give them that option. Not that any of them have taken that option to move away, so we must be doing something right. Yeah. Awesome. And apart from buying your house at 23, that's amazing. What other triumphs that have come out of your apprenticeship that you'd like to share and inspire others with?
So I have also been very lucky to have studied through my new job. So I've almost got a second qualification of instrumentation on top of my electrical trade, which is
awesome.
Very awesome. I'm super stoked.
Yeah. And I think you highlighted something there for me. It's the diversity of the electrical trade. And a lot of these other trades is you're not just stuck in one lane. You can find the lane that really suits you. For me, it was industrial. I wasn't really cut out for crawling around in little roof spaces. The openness of the industrial sector suited my physique. So yeah, having things like instrumentation to pick up later on, or programming or what have you, is really cool. For those young ones that, like me, when I came into the electrical industry, I didn't know what instrumentation was, or that it was even a thing. Can you elaborate on what that is?
So instrumentation is like a part of electrical where you can also work on instruments, which is like pressure transmitters or flow transmitters, which measure flow and pressure, and we work on installing them, setting them up and maintaining them at work. So yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, there you have it. Anyone listening, there's another option if you come through your electrical apprenticeship to move into that. There's other ones like alarms, security alarms, fire alarms. It's such a diverse range. So really encourage you to go with a company that you can move around a little bit and find that lane that suits you. So recently you came through my Te Mauri Me Tahi 6-week program, our Mind Mauri program. What led you into that, and then how did you find that process for you?
So, I was going through a pretty rough time, and I definitely needed some clarity. I was probably getting a little bit more anxiety than I should have, and I wasn't able to deal with that anxiety. And Tahi, you came to me sort of offering, and I sort of joined your call that you did for free so that we can find out what it was about. And it definitely sounded like what I needed to go through at the time to deal with, my mental health. It was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And having those tools now to fall back on, how has that helped you going forward, like coming out the other end of the program?
As you know, you pretty much change your whole self-belief and your whole operating system mentally, and it's allowed me to live a better life. I don't know if you want me to go into too much detail, but I was in a very negative mindset prior to doing that course, and now it was as bad as not really enjoying life. But now every day, I'm looking forward to new challenges, and I get to live life and do fun things and actually enjoy it all. And not feel and definitely just not having anxiety before going to things like block course as I had to for instrumentation. I'd be very anxious about going, but now I'm excited to go and I'm looking forward to the new challenges.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. It's nice to hear that. And I know the challenge you have at explaining how it changes you, because I also struggle to explain it, and it's just a full, reprogramming, isn't it? Where you see life from a more positive angle and see the negative thoughts that they're just thoughts, and you're able to shift past them and let them go.
Yeah, definitely. You learn that your thoughts, you are in control of them, and you can choose to have more positive thoughts, and you don't have to allow those negative thoughts control your day or your week or any period of your life.
Yeah. And for you, you had people around you at the time going through their own stuff. How did that allow you to disassociate from what they're going through being your thing? How has that helped you with your relationships with people around you?
So knowing that, being in a positive mindset now, and knowing that that I can be in control of my thoughts, it helps me. I can be a better person for them. And it's I've got clarity, and I know that they can't bring me down from the place I am now, because I have tools. I have the Toyo Mauri tool, which I can use. I definitely recommend it for anyone, which you'd have to learn from Tahi. But which having tools like that to deal with situations like those is definitely important when people around you are going through hard times, because you can't let them drag you down. You really need to be stable in your grounds when you're dealing with hard situations like the ones I am dealing with, or family, friends.
No, definitely, and realizing that what they're going through is what they're going through. It's not what I'm going through, so I can view it from almost an observer perspective, where you can see everything that's going on and not get dragged down by it, and authentically help them through those things. Oh, that's awesome. And apart from the Tahi Māori process that you've picked up on the journey with the 6-week program, are there any other tips or tools that you've found useful that if anyone listening in at the moment was feeling in a bad space, could actually try out and just give something a go?
Well, one thing I used to do a lot, which I did talk about in the process, I used to always spend my time in cars overthinking things and thinking negatively. And now I always use those times, I become very aware of when I'm having those thoughts, and you can really change them. And even if you may not be feeling that way, you can just say positive self-talk, say if you're like, oh, I'm having a bad day, you can say, well, actually, no, I'm going to make this a good day. And, I think just positive self-talk when you notice negative things coming through.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good tool. And knowing what you know now through coming through our program and realizing that when you keep those negative thoughts, you actually create that reality for yourself is the biggest thing, eh? It's like quite a realization that you've created your whole life that way through your belief systems.
Yeah, it was a big realization, and it was so freeing to escape all of that, and just knowing that, you can choose to have a more positive outlook on life, and it makes a huge difference, and it changes everything. Yeah, you wouldn't even believe it.
Yeah, I liken it to being removed from the way you see the world and then put on the other side and see it from a totally different perspective. That was my experience.
It definitely was. And I wouldn't look back, that's for sure. I got so much more free time now, less overthinking.
Yeah, and that's what I tell to people too that say I don't have the time to do the course or do the program. It's like, well, actually, it creates so much more time. But yeah, because you don't spend half your day negatively thinking or overthinking. Yeah,
yeah. So I definitely took that time for granted, and now it's been an amazing process to go through, and the program was definitely beneficial.
That's
I'd
awesome.
recommend it to anyone and everyone.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that it's had that effect on your life, and then any last advice to anyone? I know there's a lot of youngsters out there looking at how do I get into a trade. When I try and tell them, possible paths of, it's been a long time since I was in the trade, an apprentice coming through. What advice would you give them of where they can go to find information and some steps that they can take to help boost them up the rankings, I guess, of apprentices in line to start their apprenticeship?
I definitely know that you can also go through it ways like I did. If you're at school, you can go through gateway programs or your career advisors. But if you weren't at school, you didn't have that option, you can always go straight to companies like ETCO or ATT and see what they're all about. And I know there's career days as well, or days they put on. Even at polytechnics, they offer that 1-year course. But yeah.
So is that like a pre-trade course?
Yeah. And you can go there and find out what that's about and see what trade suits you or which you're interested in. And I know you can also go direct to companies if there was something you're interested in. You can ask them if they're willing to take on an apprentice if you're brave enough.
And my advice to that, sitting on the other side of that, is go and ask them yourself. I always notice when someone comes in and asks for an apprenticeship themselves that they had the courage to come in and ask. It makes a huge difference, rather than their mum or dad coming in and asking. Not saying that that's not a possible path. I just know it has a more memorable impact if you go in yourself. And don't get disheartened if you go in and a company isn't in the position to take on an apprentice at the time. There's only so many spaces and so many you can train at any time. So don't get disheartened and keep trying like Tegan did. And who knows, 23 years old, you could own your own house. And it doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, non-binary, anywhere you sit, the possibilities are there. And like you said, Tegan, going along to one of these trade days and finding which trade suits you and interests you, because you spend more time at work than you do at home with your family once you're in a paying job. So I highly recommend you choose wisely. Well, thank you for coming along today. And just if anyone's noticed earrings and likes them, that's my darling Kelly's Kitty makes these earrings. So hit her up if you want a pair of those earrings that Tegan's wearing. Awesome. Thank you. Nō reira, ko motu tēnei kōrero o tēnei wā. This concludes another kōrero for this time. Visit our website taumaurimetahi.com or click on the link in the show notes to sign up to our next free bi-monthly webinar. And don't forget to follow Tau Mauri Me Tahi on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date with all the exciting offers we have coming your way. Noho ora mai.